Good evening, everybody. Dr. Glow here with Black Girl Everything. I am excited on this lovely Monday to be with beautiful women as we discuss all the things we always need to talk about. So I want to say first that we are in Mental Health Awareness Month. Really excited about this month as we start to address the needs of individuals in our community. So today's conversation is all about motherhood and career, where we're going to be talking about a balancing act for corporate Black women and mental health. Somewhere around there, we're going to talk through all these different types of conversations through our people who are in different fields, right? So let's start off by some introductions of these beautiful women I am blessed to be with today. So let's start off with Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. I am Tiffany Nelson. I am a human resources professional. I work for a major retailer here in New York City. I specialize in the luxury space. I'm also a life strategist and a talent acquisition specialist. I'm particularly interested in supporting people in their next great step. I love to launch leaders to their destiny.
Mhm.
I have worked with companies such as Delta Airlines, Madison Square Garden, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Baccarat Hotels, and Tiffany and Company, the retailer. And I'm super
Perfect.
excited to be here with you all.
Yes, Tiffany, thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's slide down over to Sabrina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sabrina.limage. I am a special education coordinator. I've been a director. I enjoy supporting new mothers and families, especially new parents who are adjusting to the transition of getting services for their child. I'm just so invested and excited to be here today.
Thank you. Stacey.
Hi, everyone. I am Stacey Singh. I am the founder of Phenomenal as well as I am Sovereignty. I am the mother of six. I am also a self-mastery coach, which I love helping people guide them back into a lasting transformation beyond the mindset work. I am also a family peer advisor over at New York Foundling. And what we do is facilitate, create, and provide trainings for those that are in the social work sector, as well as the family peer advocates and youth peer advocates. Yeah, and just like even like today, we just came back from Albany to go ahead and provide training for those. So we travel, I enjoy it, just guiding people back to the reprogramming and really living from their core.
Wow, y'all are fancy. If I put all your information on one resume, it'd be killer, right? It all brings so much different stuff out to the community. So I'm really excited to have you all here with us today. So we're going to jump into this conversation. So, Black women, our identity in spaces, especially around corporate America, is always different, right? Now, Stacey, a mother of six, I'm gonna go right to you for this first question. So, as a Black woman, right, how has motherhood shaped your career?
Oh, it's been trying. It's been trying. And I say that because as a Black woman, the way it has shaped my career is I'm one that has been through foster care, group home, things like that. So how can you say, it hasn't been an easy road. It hasn't been an easy walk. The natural supports weren't there the way that I would have loved for them to be there. So some things just required more standing up. It required a little more of a fight. Things that should come naturally don't come naturally because there's a lot of stigma along the mental health and the trauma. It's a lot of trauma that was put into or just naturally embedded in the way that we grew up and just function in parenthood. So I love where we are right now, and right now it requires a bit of releasing and allowing the youth to support us. And that has quite a bit of a try all in itself as well, because, we're learning to be led by the youth.
Yeah, yeah. The child-led model, I love it. Me personally, takes so much stress off of you because you don't try to lead and control everything, but it's also so complicated because youth are crazy, right? And how they see the world is not necessarily how we see the world. So it can be definitely a challenge. So Tiffany, who you've worked with a lot of different corporations in your history as a mom, right? So how has being a mother affected your career?
I was just having a conversation with a colleague about this today. I think that it has definitely affected my career as far as what I'm looking for when I'm offering someone a role, what I'm looking to offer a
Mhm.
candidate. Definitely having the mom filter on kind of makes me more aware of what to offer candidates. So it's not necessarily always all about the salary, although a
Yeah.
salary is definitely a very important thing and it makes things super easy, or a lot easier. But sometimes things that I'm looking to offer when I'm in a talent acquisition role is I'm looking to offer more flexible time to a candidate. I'm looking to offer them, maybe the possibility of coming in
Mhm.
later on certain days when there are childcare issues that they need to handle, or maybe when one parent is opting or able to maybe drop the kids off, and they want to kind of swap days, or I'm looking to offer parents the opportunity to maybe stay later on days when they don't have to rush to pick up, or letting them get out of work early so that they can get to pick their child up by 6 p.m. so they're not charged an additional $200 for 15 minutes because they can't get there on time.
Mhm.
So I think I'm thinking about all these things as a mother when I'm working in corporate America. I'm also thinking about things like what services can we offer parents as far as support in employee assistance programming? Can we offer parent support as far as therapy and counseling? Can we offer family programming that's supportive? Can we offer assistance for the summer? Summer's coming. Are parents prepared?
Mhm.
Do they know that, maybe they might need summer camp support, or maybe they might need an ability to kind of put some money away in their flexible spending so they can take their family on a family vacation for a week at Disney, or if not Disney, maybe they can just do a couple of days at Great Adventure or Sesame Place. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about through the motherhood lens in corporate America.
Yes, that mother, I like how you say that motherhood lens. I think I take the same approach with a lot of my staff. It's really about, for me, it's about that having that connection between what's going on with your life as well as what's going on within the workplace. Because when you have that connection, that's when you're actually leading and supporting folks in a way that can strengthen them. So Sabrina, I'm going to slide down to you as the early childhood educator, also here in the space as a therapist. Why did you choose education as a mom?
Education chose me.
Got it.
Um, I'm probably gonna have to say because I'm originally not from the States. So the culture, I'm from Haiti, and the education system in Haiti is very different to that here of the States. And I've had a conversation about what it looks like, and it's really weeding out the weak. You can start a class with 365 students, and the graduating class is 67.
Mhm.
And, I guess I'd have to say having the opportunity of growing up here and having friends and family and being able to interact with parents from around the world and learning about the different cultures and how, depending on where they're from, Canada provides support where parents can stay at home for a year and keep 70% of their salary. Parents in other countries, they get to stay home for 2 years, the mother and the father. And that I've had parents who told me they're allowed to nap with their kids in school. Just the culture, the world, just how they embrace the parents, it makes it so much easier for children to grow and thrive. And I think the parents, as a new mom later in life, in my 40s and a child with medical issues, as a single mom, I can relate and I understand that as a mom, there's so many different lenses that you're using that
Mhm.
constantly shift, and there's a lot of information. And you're also providing, protecting, trying to meet all these other, needs that your child has and that you have. I've learned that, the children, the parents who come in the centers where I used to work, most of them were suffering from postpartum, but it's very hard to identify that in Black women because we're so used to pushing and doing, surviving and thriving. And oh, I can't let this drop. In my culture, they say every single finger, all 10 fingers has a job. Mom, doctor, everything. And
Yeah.
so mental health and supporting new mothers, especially mothers who've had children through NICU, it's so important. It's so important. And the children, they're suffering as the parents are so stressed because they're
Yeah.
not getting supported.
Yes, Sabrina. What I love everything that you talk about, especially here in this country with the cultural differences for folks, where you have people they had their 10-week-old and they're just like, oh, but I have to go back to work because I took 2 weeks off too early, right, to get ready for the baby to get here and they're running out of time, right? Why is that even an option, especially for Black mothers, or the fact that in some spaces they can't actually pump safely in some of these spaces. There's no storage for breast milk. There's all these things we have to consider. One thing that stands out for me, for you, is the fact that, especially in our culture, Black women, we feel we have to keep going. We feel like we have to keep moving. So, Stacey, what is your perspective on that, especially as a mom of six, what type of expectations do you think were placed on you in the workplace?
To have it all together, to not to have like real issues, to have everything in place, for excuse me, for it makes me think of um I was fortunate enough to be able to. I have a lot of. I've worn a lot of hats, and one of them was a medical assistant in a doctor's office, right? And not having the child care, as Tiffany said, I didn't have the privilege of having the after school care. So my kids got dropped off at the job, and now they need to be well behaved, and they needed to not be children in that moment, as well as get their homework done, and just show up so that I can make sure that I can earn the money to make sure they eat for the next day. But the expectations that was expected of me, with all of that, I played the role of three employees, right? So not only did my children have to be on their best behavior, I had to now show them that I was worth more. I was worth my stay, so to speak. And with that, the income was not suitable at the time. So, I have now a 29-year-old, and at that time she, wasn't even 13, so everyone was underage, couldn't really be left at home by themselves because the other two under her, we can leave her with that responsibility. So the expectation, I would really say, is to be more than you are, not to have real issues, not to really need the help or support, because it wasn't there in that time. Now we are in a time frame where things are expanding. It is, some leniency is being provided. Things are getting better because of, the trauma informed approach, and people are finally becoming aware of ACEs and how that, is affecting who we are. If your scores are 4 or 5 and higher, like people are starting to and normalize mental health, like take away the stigmas. It's not everywhere though. We do need to learn how to prioritize self-care, show that we value ourselves, because the way we treat ourselves and the way you, that gives people permission on how to treat us. Is how we show up for ourselves. So that my expectation of myself is now like really being there for myself. I'm really not concerned with what their expectations are anymore,
Ooh, I
because
like
it's
that.
time for me
I
to
like that.
prioritize myself.
I
Yeah.
think that that's a great approach to look at it. When you mentioned the ACEs score, I have an ACEs score of a 10. So for me, I was just like, oh my goodness, when I first learned about it, right? I first saw her in one of those talks. I'm not going to mention their name because not paying me to mention their name, but I saw her in one of those talk places. And I went back and I did the research, and now it's all part of our educational experience, especially within my childcare center. It's really about identifying the aces of all my families, right? To see what they're working with when these children come through the door. And it's definitely amazing. But Tiffany, as you have the TN framework or as a coach, right? So my question for you is, how do you work with people when they're trying to balance, right, that career as well as their well-being? You're muted.
Thank you for that. I think so balancing the career and the well-being, I'm always looking at everything holistically, and the well-being is the center of everything. I think that everything stems from that. Our financial well-being is connected to our physical well-being and our mental well-being. Our career well-being is connected to our mental and physical well-being. I think everything is interconnected, essentially. And so I'm always looking at all of these things. And to me, I don't believe in working on one area and not addressing all of the other areas. So I'm particularly interested in working all of these areas at the same time. And it's funny that we should be mentioning, some of these things, because for me, even in working at our career, it is critical, I think, to constantly be in therapy, constantly be working on ourselves, on personal growth and development. Like, it's a daily work, some part, some piece, some part. It's not necessarily always the same component. Um, so I think of it kind of like the food that we eat. Like, I don't always need to eat broccoli, but I need a vegetable. Like, there needs to be a vegetable. There needs to be a fruit. It doesn't always have to be the same fruit or the same vegetable, but there needs to be something. And I think daily it's the same thing, whether it's meditation, visualization, writing, reading, yoga, breath work, shadow work, mirror work. It needs to be something. And I think those things are really, really super important for career. And I think it just optimizes. I'm so glad that so many people have these tools available to them. I think the um the opportunity, the gap, the area of opportunity is that a lot of people don't realize what they do have available. And so we're too often leaving money on the table. And because it's not money, like cash money, we don't realize the value of what's being left on the table. And to me, I think often, like, going to a position, taking a job, any job, even the job of motherhood, I don't want to leave anything on the table. I don't want to leave, if I'm a secretary, an admin, I don't want to leave any money on the table. If they say, listen, we're giving you $50 for the gym, well, give me my $50 every month. Where do I submit the paperwork? I want it all. And I think that I think there's a certain amount of work that we need to do to make sure that we're taking care of those things. Some companies are offering 10 free therapy sessions, and often we leave that on the table. But if we would take care of those things, that's what we need to deal with the crazy coworker that we have. And if we would do that, we'd probably be a little bit better off. We'd probably be focused a little bit more on our work. It also probably help us to deal with whatever issues we might have going on at home. Helping us to keep all the balls in the air, as it may be. So I think it's super, super, super important to kind of keep the well-being, our mental well-being, our physical well-being in line with our career.
Dope, dope. It's a lot that you said there. So it took up something for me for Sabrina. Sabrina, you mentioned your daughter early on in this conversation. So I can assume that there's been moments that you're within your career that you have felt overwhelmed, right? So how have you dealt with that mentally and emotionally through those times? And how have you also supported parents through that type of emotions, especially with children with special needs?
I'm going,
Oh,
it varies. Everything changes. Like when I went back to work, I worked up to 56 hours a week, even though full time was 30. Having a system in place, having a schedule, having a supportive network, planning, looking everything as a whole, right? What is the time restraint? What can I do? What type of job? I went from being a director to being a caseworker for flexibility. So I think it's important to not only be realistic about the needs for your family, what you need for yourself, and also to take time when you notice you need time, whether it's a break, a vacation, and also use counseling as a way to talk. Because there are moments where that unfortunately in the culture, I'm going to say in the Black culture, there's a lot of shaming. There's a lot of shaming if you're not able to keep breastfeeding. There's a lot of shaming when it comes to medical appointments or even gender roles, or the father should be this or so and so should be that. And just the support as a culture, as a society, even when it comes down to medical appointments, I was very fortunate to have therapists who were supporting my child to support me. I've had to let people know you're not talking to an uneducated person. I might be a mom looking like this in a robe, but understand that I'm very knowledgeable in this field. And there are times I've been intimidated. I think one of the biggest shocker for me was if you have a partner who may think that, oh, she's just making assumption, it's not a big deal. And I have videos, pictures, voice clips, and I've submitted that. And that's when they've taken my request seriously because she had signs of hip dysplasia or certain things with her bone. But because my child appears so strong, I'm gonna say as a young Black woman, a warrior princess, as I like to call her, um, she doesn't know any different. What would a 2-month-old know about what the signs should look like or might look like?
mm-hmm.
How she started life is different from everyone else. So I've come to terms that to understand that not everyone understands. You know, my child at 2 months old knew what it was like to be in pain and not have a voice, where you can't
Got it.
hear and her
Yeah.
vitals may not shift. And so some things that you guys have said resonate with me is, unfortunately, just Black people as a whole, as a culture, not treated the same. We
Yeah, Sabrina,
and
that's a big point
it's
that you
it's
raised
it's
there.
and I do my
Yeah.
best to try to help and support, but
Hmm.
even at my age and education, that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
You
So what
cuss
I
it out.
find, Sabrina, what you're saying here, what I'm hearing here is definitely talking about advocacy, right? And how we have to step up and be advocates within our space at all times, especially when we're talking about being the voice of our children, being the voice of our family members, and being a voice even for ourselves. That's a really good point, Sabrina. So Stacey, I got a question for you. As you have the founders of I Am Sovereignty, right? And you start to focus between power, clarity, and alignment for folks as a coach. How are you supporting individuals through becoming advocates for themselves?
I love that question, and I want to come back to that question just for the sake of Mental Health Awareness Month. I think we mentioned ACE
Mhm.
earlier, and I don't think it'd be fair for those that may not know what ACE is, and we're like, I got to score 10, I got to score 9, and that's something really, really big, right? So ACE is the score where we're talking about, Dr. Glow and I speaking about our scores. 10 is the high score on ACE, right? 9 is right under it, and that is adverse childhood experiences. So what this means is, like, where do you score out of 10 categories um, within your childhood experience before you turned 18, right? So have you had experience with physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect, household mental illness? Have you been exposed to that? Substance abuse, or just experiencing being in a household with substance abuse, a family member that has been incarcerated, witnessing domestic violence, or separation or divorce. So you get 1 point for any of these that you have experienced. And anytime you get, well, it is said, it doesn't determine your destiny, but if you have like a score of 4 or more, you are at risk of like really mental health. You know, you're at risk for experiencing depression and just the way like dis-ease create disease in the body. So, you know, diabetes, high blood pressure, anything that has that disorder, migraine headaches, like all of these things can be a result of your ACE score. So that's how Dr. Glow and I came up with our scores. So for her to have a 10 and for myself to have a 9, it just gives you an idea of, you know, what it is we're speaking of. And just hearing that, while there is an actual assessment that you can take, but just going through that, you can kind of pinpoint where you are within that category. So I just wanted to give that space there because if I'm sitting, you know, like ACE, what's that? What y'all talking about? Because ACE sound like something powerful, right? I want to be an ACE. Right. And unfortunately, we don't really get to create and pick our destiny. Like, you know, what happened as we're older now, you know, self-care, marginalized communities are extremely important. And how we take care of ourselves and the loneliness epidemic. There's so many things that's going on right now. Um, it's important that we are aware of that so that we can like use the services of like Dr. Glow and the care of Tiffany and you know Sabrina is a therapist as well and myself as a coach. Like how do you go to this community and those that you may know that is close to it or best friend or your natural supports to help you know that there are other ways that you can go about it and you don't need to fend for this for yourself. But to answer your question, I think it was a long advocacy. Can you just repeat it? I'll try to bring it
Yeah,
in
you know, you can
really
just
quick.
keep on going because right now you're leaning into resilience. I just want you to keep going.
Okay, so so what it makes like my line of work with New York Foundling, I am an advisor, family peer advisor, and what we do is we provide the supports, the training, the resources. We are the hands-on experience for the advocates, right? So the youth peer advocates and the family peer advocates, we are who they come to with the toolbox. So it is our job, like I said, to create and facilitate these trainings so that they can have, we do trainings everything over the sun. Mandated reporting versus supporting, supporting versus reporting, self-care marginalized community, empathic leadership. We just want to make sure that they know how to go back into the community. And a lot of people in the social work sector, school communities come to our trainings as well. And, you know, I take it into my coaching because I don't do anything that's not in alignment with who I am as a person, motherhood and everything. There's not an answer. You know, it's no cookie cutter. There's no one way to go about doing this. But just to know that there are people out there to support you, to help you, to navigate who you are as a person and knowing that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need someone to hear you, someone to witness you, someone to understand you, someone to walk with you, hold your hand, tell them the role that you need. You get to ask for what you need in the way that you need it. And like, really give it 100%. Give it 100, whatever it looks like. There's no shame in this process because we all have different, we come from different dynamics. You know, there's different makeups and we don't know what we're doing. Let's just be honest. We don't. We're figuring it out along the way. It's a moment by moment. I don't know what's right in this moment until I'm sitting in it. I can't think my way out of it. I can't think my way through it. You know, like I have to sit there and experience and find out what's true to me. And we sit in the fear of society and the programming of how they feel we need to operate. And that's at a disadvantage for us.
Yeah,
It's not okay.
thank you for all that, Stacey. You're very clear about. I'm clear with you with all of that because we all are in this moment of every day is a challenge, right? Every day is a new opportunity where we can step into it and recreate who we want to be and how we want to show up within the space. And sometimes I think people just forget that they think, oh, what happened yesterday is really going to totally affect your. Yes, it will, right? But you can navigate yourself through it and actually show up differently and be a whole brand new person. Don't ask me about who I am on Tuesday, who I'm on Saturday, because you're going to meet a different Glow, right? Because I'm living through my experiences that I would have had throughout the week to say, okay, this worked, that didn't work, this does work, that doesn't work, because I'm constantly looking at and self actualizing every single day, probably a couple of times throughout the day. So I'm gonna
And
slide
Dr.
back to
Glow,
Tiffany. Yes, go,
your
Stacey. That's what you say.
100% today is going to look different from your 100% yesterday
Yeah.
and your 100% tomorrow. Today, my 100% might just be crying through the day because I'm hanging in there.
Mm.
You know, like just
Mm.
releasing that. That might be 100%. Tomorrow, I might be climbing the mountain, right? But it's the moment by moment. What do I need in this moment?
Yeah, that moment by moment. So I'm gonna slide down to Tiffany and to co-sign on this a little bit. As you work with professionals, especially high performing individuals, talk
Mhm.
to me a little bit about how your moments can shift.
Oh, well, I think it's the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. I think it's in any field, in any position, in any arena, in any industry. I think we're particularly seeing it right now, and we're going to see it a lot going forward with the financial climate that we're experiencing right now, with the job and career climate that we're experiencing right now. We're going to see more of people experiencing really high highs, people in their careers, at the top of their careers, the best in their fields, and essentially they could possibly experience having the rug pulled from under them and not knowing what to do. And it might be a little challenging for some of them. So I think there are some people who have shown themselves to be a little bit more resilient and know how to kind of move and flow with what happens because we've had no other choice. And I think there are some people who have had a choice and have not had to really kind of had to bend or change or adjust in any way. And so now they're going to have to experience that and it's going to be different. Um, so this is a topic that I'm like obsessed with. I am obsessed with this topic. I love the pivot. I love the pivot out of necessity. I love the pivot out of choice because I know that particularly marginalized communities, underrepresented communities, underserved communities, we do this with excellence all the time because we've had no choice, right? And then hundreds of years later, people come along and they're like, oh my gosh, oxtail, who would have thought? We thought, we thought because we didn't have a choice. Oh my God, a collard green, who would have thought? We thought because we didn't have no choice. We didn't have a choice. And so we had to figure out a way to make it work. And so we did. And we've done that time and time and time again. And so I'm obsessed. Not only have we done it with food, we've done it with our hair, we've done it with our careers, we've done it with so many different things. We've done it with child rearing. We've done it with child rearing. Even with child rearing, we've done it. And so I'm just so interested. We've done it with communities. We've done it with gardening. We've done it. I mean, the list goes on. The list goes on. So I'm super interested to see how things are going to shift and change for people. I'm super interested to see who's going to really do well. I think there are certain people who are going to thrive and do exceptionally well during this period of time. I think there's going to be a reckoning. I think people are going to find themselves and find new careers and new loves for their lives, which I think is amazing. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to what's really going to occur in the next several years, actually.
Yeah. I made me think really about when 2020 first hit and the pandemic first came about. And
Mm-hmm.
you had every single Black woman who was at home and had time to think a little bit. All of a sudden, everybody launched their businesses and did all these things. Like even mine, even though I launched it right before like January, I was like, I'm starting this organization. Now in Black Girl, everything has been in existence for 5 years, right? At this point. And it's like so many people came along during that time that I was able to meet because we had time to pivot and figure it out. My job wasn't working. I was on unemployment. Different people had these different stories. And it was like, what am I going to do? So they started to create. So yes, high stress moments, especially for people of color, is because we're so used to it and we've been
Yeah.
forced into it for so many generations before us. This is our high time.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
our high time. So I'm excited as well to see what we are going to create during this time.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is definitely.
I'm thinking even tonight is, tonight is the Met Gala, and
Mhm.
the topic of the Met Gala is super fine. The dandy, right? It's the idea of the dandy, which is, this idea around Black men, like really dressing this specific way. And even that came out of just having this much fabric to put in a pocket square, or just
Mhm.
this much fabric to make pants, but I don't have enough fabric to make the suit jacket, so I'll have to borrow a jacket from here, and I borrow this hat from here, and put it all together, and we're just fabulous. And that's essentially what pivoting is, and that's essentially what resilience is, and we do it all the time. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Sabrina,
Mhm.
so when you were last speaking, Sabrina, you talked a lot about, community, right? We were talking about connecting
Mhm.
with people and support of around that concept of doing it all, especially because you work very closely with families. Can you talk a little bit about the power of community?
Wow. I'll start with this. You mentioned something earlier about COVID. And with the line
Mhm.
of work that I was in, I was working full time to not working until all of my clients and all of my parents started blowing up my phone, and they were starting to freak out because they had to work with their child. And I'm like, yes, this is what we need. And I have to remind them and coach them and say, this is your child. You want to build a relationship with them, because the truth is, no one can really do more for your child than you. And I've seen a lot of fear, anxiety, stress, and it was a privilege to be able to work with the parents, and just for them to show and tell me, like, I don't know what happened. I feel like my child just went from being a selective mute to talking to interacting with me to having a relationship. I'm just very excited to see what's going to happen as we're going through this change as a culture, right? There's been a lot of shifts in how just relationships, marriage, just people in general. And I think there's something that you said, Tiffany, that makes sense. And I think everyone has been talking about it. Necessity. It is time for a change. We go from figuring it out to being learning how to be flexible. And what I'm learning is children are learning how to express themselves, how to monitor their emotions and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And it's important. Mental health in our students, in our colleagues. We're going through a big change. We're going through a big change. I'm really excited, and I think it all comes down to the support we can provide each other, from parents working with other parents, from the staff and the leadership. And the leadership has the power to create such nurturing environments. It's the heart, it's the blood that's pumping. And if we really hone in on that and come together as a community, there's no stopping us.
Yeah, Sabrina, thank you for all of that. That was great. That was definitely great. Stacey, I got this question for you though, because I'm gonna keep on flying back. I'm from a big family, right? I have 14 siblings. So I know what it feels like to be in a household with a lot of people you got to talk to, right? So how do you talk about mental health, right, in your household with your children, right? And has your perspective changed over the years as you started to add on children?
I love that you asked that. Because I was sitting here and it was almost like I was formulating the thought process around that in my mind already, and how parenting has changed. When I had my first, I was 18. right? When I had my last, I was 41. So there's a huge, they don't have the same mother, right? The 18-year-old doesn't have, the 18-year-old, it makes me emotional just thinking about it. The 18-year-old got a little girl who didn't know what she was doing, that was taken advantage of, that didn't like a baby. Who wants to really have the responsibility? Cute, yes. Fun, no. Stressful, trying. Love, yes. So I was going through my own mental health issues at that moment and didn't know that that's what I didn't know that I was going through trauma, right? But yet, as Tiffany said, we had to figure it out, right? It was a lot of figuring it out. Now, looking at my 6-year-old and the mom she gets now is a mom that can listen, a mom that can ask you, how was your day? And be able to hear how your day was, opposed to the then 6-year-old that's, don't you know better? Why are you doing that? Why are you messing with that? Regulating how am I going to show up in the space, and now actually holding space for the 6-year-old. So there were two different 6-year-olds that were raised. This 6-year-old has a voice where the 6-year-old 23 years ago didn't have the same voice. She was to do what she was told because I was still doing what I was told, following the cookie cutter. There was no cookie cutter, right? Didn't realize that I was being raised by a narcissistic mother, right? But I'm passing on the trauma and the experiences through that, thinking that what I'm doing is correct. Um, so it's not so much a conversation, if I'm going to be honest right now. I now get to sit back and see how it affected those that came before and those that are here now, and see how I show up moment by moment and how I can hear it now. Like, and even when I remember having a conversation with one of the older ones, and it was like, that's not who we got. And I said, but that's who you have now. Right. So sometimes we can get stuck in that space, and a simple reminder of, I know that you probably needed more. I needed more. And I get that. I know you wanted more. I wanted more. And let's just be honest, the 6-year-old right now, she's going to have her issues when she get older, because there's no perfect way about doing it, right? There's going to be the areas that I fall short, and there's going to be the areas that I succeed in. And, they have great things to say, and everything isn't so great at the same time. So it's more in a way of being and allowing them to show up and hearing them and just giving them the space and letting them know that they matter. And, like just I reading the books that make a difference, have a conversation. So it's just directing it, because some conversations are really hard to hear. And when I say with mental health, it's hard even with the older ones. So I have to find opportunities and ways to pull myself and their experience out of it, so we can look at it in the grand scheme and then bring it down. Like, okay, now that you can hear it this way, now we can speak about it. Because if we go straight to like things that may have hurt it along the way, not intentionally. I think that I did a pretty good job considering, right? I think I did a great job. Um, but that's not their experience, gets to be theirs. And even the little one, there's conversations I can't have because her brain cannot conceptualize it like that. So we're into, hey, what do you think is happening here? What is the moral of the story? What's showing up? And we can pull things out. And when I see she can grasp certain things, lead her into spaces where she can think for herself and not be directed. I directed the other ones. I told them how they were supposed to think. Right now, she gets. Now, with that being said, Dr. Glow, this freedom of the kids, look, make my head itch.
Girl.
It's a different space. It's a different space,
Oh,
but I think it'll be better
you
for
said
it.
let
The
them be
child is
free,
free.
and now they free.
Now they
Now they
free.
free. Now
Now they
they
free,
free.
but I love
Yeah,
it.
we let
I
them
love
out the
it.
box, okay? But
Out
there's a
the
clear difference between
box.
my 20-year-old and my 6-year-old. All right.
Yeah.
Mama at 24 and mama at like 40, it's a whole different world. whole different world. And I was just like, oh, who am I
Mhm.
with this? And my son looks at me all the time. He's like, why is she able to do that? I'm like, because she's your little sister. Like, just leave
Right.
her alone. Right. But yeah, but she's free though. The voice and power that comes behind her is amazing. I appreciate it. Or I appreciate that she's going to be an advocate for her own life, an advocate for what she wants. And she's just not going to take anything because she doesn't even take anything from either of her parents either. So it's going to be a fun times, as she continues to grow. But Tiffany, I know you can co-sign that because you have a very, very, very strong teenager over there.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
You've raised her well.
It's fun is one word for it, not always the word that I use, but yes, I do. It's interesting. I do, I love that my daughter is an independent thinker. This is what I raised her to be. I want her to be independent thinker. And I do struggle sometimes because sometimes she doesn't know when, and that's probably my only problem. My only problem is that she doesn't know when, like to just go and listen to me and we can talk about it later. And that's the problem. That is the problem. Like, I'm all for you having your choice and making your choice, I'm all for that, but you got to know when. And that's the thing. And I don't think it's just with teenagers. I think this is with most people. They just don't know when. We see it in partnerships. Like, if I give you the eye, like, the eye means let's go. We can talk about this in the car, but for right now, let's get out of here. And I think sometimes people just don't get it, and we're not always in the space or around the company where we can have a larger discussion. I'm always happy to have a larger discussion about it at a later time, but now's not always the time. So yeah, it's always a work. It's yeah, that's it.
Yeah, trust me, I know. Every day I was like, oh, she's gonna be only 6.
Yeah, yeah.
And you figure they're your baby forever. Like they say, I know you have a one who's almost about to turn 30, they're still your baby. So it
Yes.
doesn't matter. People say when they turn 18, it's gonna get better. No, it doesn't. It's a
Yeah.
totally different type of human you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because one day I'm ready to just like put my hands around her throat, and then like this morning I'm like looking at a video of her when she was 2, and I'm like in tears. I'm like, you were so cute, like literally in tears, crying. So
Yeah, you
it's
just gotta
funny.
love them.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta.
So, Sabrina, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, as we get to the end of this panel here, what if you could change anything, because you deal a lot with parents. So, if there could be any policy that you would want to change in a workspace, especially for leaders who are watching this, what would be a policy that you would like to implement to support Black mothers?
I would say something that I think would be very helpful for Black mothers, whether it's in the school system or the workplace, is to have, um, I was actually just thinking about that. Um, you know how we have insurance
Mm-hmm.
for unemployment?
Mm-hmm.
Why not have insurance that you can tap into so you wouldn't lose any funding anytime, where you can actually take time for a mental health or family break?
Mm-hmm.
Because life is happening for everyone, and there are parents, teachers, staff that I've worked with that went through so much. And it makes you wonder, what if we had something in place where, like in other countries, where people can take time out and focus on their family, on themselves, and come back to work without being exhausted or tarnished. I think that's something that could help. And one of the things I've also thought about is having a space where Black mothers, especially, where mothers who are dealing with postpartum stress, anxiety, if they had a safe space where they can get support and services that's a part of curriculum and for the parents. There are parents I've seen literally afraid of their own children, like grandparents, mothers who were screaming and just in so much rage and anger. And it affects the children. The children I worked with 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they're definitely not the kids that I worked with in the center today. Children chewing gum and yelling, shut up, is different from children who are physically biting other children or injuring themselves. And times have changed.
Yeah, they definitely have. They definitely have. But I'm gonna slide over to our human resources professional over there. So I know in a lot of states we do have things, especially like the state of New York is pretty good about that with things like FMLA and things of that nature. But I know different states have different rules. So Tiffany, I'm gonna have you tap in a little bit on what Sabrina mentioned about those types of policies that could be put in place.
Yeah, I think for this one, I would really love to see something where mothers, particularly, could have a space and a time of rest. Rest is
Mm.
resistance. Rest is resistance. And I mean, rest away from their family.
Mhm.
Rest away from their family. Rest where they are completely away from their family, where they can just rest. Not be like on a work trip where they're like up and like trying to schedule school drop-offs and Uber Eats and telling dad what clothes to put on their I mean, like, completely just arrest. I think that particularly Black mothers need a time of rest. And there was a time, not I think, I know there was a time hundreds of years ago where we got a rest, right? Like during, you know, our monthly cycle, we went to an area where we were just all together and we just got to rest and be away from everyone. And because we got to do that 12 times a year, we were not as exhausted as we are often. And I think that if women got the opportunity, if I could do anything, I would make that the one thing that women would be able to have right now.
I like that one. I would take that one.
Yeah.
Definitely that rest.
I
What
love
Yeah.
about you,
that
Stacey?
too. That's a great idea.
Yeah, took what I would think of and say. I think it's mandatory day off, no laundry. Like it should be implemented within the work week where you just get to recalibrate it. Even more necessary and needed, just because I've done it so many times. Um, Postpartum moms.
Mhm.
When you're pregnant, you go from being the most delicate, the most cared for individual in the world because you're carrying a baby.
Uh-huh.
And then you have this baby and people forget about you.
Oh yeah.
A moment where your whole entire life has just shifted and changed. Your body is trying to get back. Your boobs are not feeling like boobs. You don't know what they feel like. You are going through the insecurities and discomfort from not being cherished as the pregnant mom anymore to this vessel that doesn't fit anything that isn't, and you're waking up in the middle of the night during the day. You have to make sure you feed the baby. Like, there needs to be a caretaker for a new mom, at least for the first 3 months. I would like to put in place, I'm saying it like, look, magic wand,
Vote
wishing,
for me.
right, the first 3 months, mom needs a caretaker because just that becoming and finding out and figuring out who you are, whether it's a single mother, whether you have other children that still requires your support and your assistance that don't want to be forgotten about, because it's a very, they need to know that they still matter as well. If you're a wife and you're going through still the needs, because some, don't even want to wait till a 6-week checkup. It's so much a new mom goes through as well as learning this brand new baby that you feel like you knew for years, even though it's just been 48 hours, because every moment, their breath, their cough, their cry, you are so in tune. Your senses are ultra high. All of your senses are so high. Mom needs, I would like to see 3 months, first 3 months at least, minimum. First year, preferably. 3 months if we can't do that, support for moms.
I love that.
I think that is great. I think you all dropped some great ideas that I'm going to sit here and put into a grant for a nonprofit. Thank you.
I love that.
Especially because my Daisy Dream Project works with new moms as well, postpartum moms as well. We actually started some doula program over at the Century Gym, so I'm really excited about that. But yes, you're putting the support with moms for the first 3 months. Like one of the big things for my family is the fact that we have a whole football team of siblings and we all live pretty close. We're good for that. We're good for to be the ones who are just at the house showing up. Like we taking time with the kids. Like one of my latest nieces were born. She don't know me that well, but she comes to my school every day. But like my other siblings are there all the time with her. So my sister constantly gets support, and just having that tribe really does matter for folks because your body does need the time to be able to bounce back, right? To be able to recalibrate and to get refocused on what things are. And we mentioned very early on, especially here in the United States, where, you might get 12 weeks if you're lucky. Some people are still working with 5 to 6. And I know some people are back at work 2 weeks later because they cannot afford to be
Right.
That's
home
if
to
you're
be able
on
to
the
care for them.
books. That's
Yeah.
if
Right.
you're on the books.
That's
Right.
exactly if you're on the book. So there's a lot of conversation around that and around that support system for folks. And there's a lot of other countries who do that, who do have that postpartum care. That's someone who come in and actually support you for months after. And we don't necessarily have that here because our health system is what it is currently. But those are things that we can start talking about advocating and put in place for folks because it's definitely necessary. But I want to thank you all for spending time with me this evening, sharing space on this lovely, lovely, rainy Monday, and having this conversation as we approach Mother's Day coming up next week. And, we're Black every day, so that always works for us. And I will give you time, the opportunity to say one last thing. And so, Tiffany, you can go ahead and go first.
So what I will say is, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. May is also a great month to reset. So if you are looking to do a life reset, find me. I am Tiffany C. Nelson. I am on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. I am on TikTok. I am Tiffany C. Nelson. You can find me at my website, TN Framework, Tiffany Nelson Framework. .com. And as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Dr. Glow and Black Girl Everything. Thank you for your continued work and for always providing a platform for Black women and Black women-owned businesses and Black women-led businesses to be elevated. Thank you so much for what you do.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us, Stacey.
Oh, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here with all of you. Thank you, Dr. Glow, for, thinking of me, having me. I really appreciate that. What I would say is to make sure that you are the star in your own life. Don't play the co-star role. You get the leading role, and make sure that it's grand, make sure that it's great. Be your own master within your life. You can find me at staceysingh.com or phenomenal.com or my IG, I.am.sovereignty or phenomenal. And if you can't remember any of that, Dr. Glow will support you. And I am a self-mastery coach. Like let's deprogram, forget about society, like where you become the leading role, the leading player, no more co-star. It's you.
I like that leading role.
Yeah.
Go ahead, fellow superstar. I love it. I love it. I love it. Sabrina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Glow, for having me. And thank you so much for what you do. Um, I I have to say this has just been a phenomenal experience, and it is Mental Health Month, and just the love and support we have for the mothers and the new families. You know, I am an educator and special education consultant. I'm here to support new mothers and families. I can be reached at sabrina.limage@gmail.com. I am excited to help and support, so please feel free to let me know. And thank you so much for having me.
Perfect, perfect. So everybody, I am Dr. Glow. This has been a panel with Black Girl Everything. You'll be able to find out all their great information on our YouTube channel. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Please and thank you. And there's some brief announcements coming up. We also have a comedy show that's coming up next week through the Power by BGE Space. And if you have not joined us for retreat at all in the last 5 years, you need to get ready for Retreat 2026. And one of my new ventures that's happening, as we all notice, I started having these panels on these Mondays to rev up for my new experience of this in-person BIWOC Women speaking event on October the 4th, where I'm accepting applications for powerful women to stand on the stage and talk your ish. It will be recorded and streamed, and people will be there buying tickets. It's going to be so amazing right here in Mount Vernon, New York. So looking for speakers for that as well. Please, if you're interested, you can email me directly. You can send me up on Instagram at Black Girl Everything LLC, or on my other page, Dr. Glow _ the brand. If you're looking to motivate your life to a new space, holler at me. I definitely will help you get there. A 15-minute conversation with me is just like magic. So I thank you all for tuning in today, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.